are joining in our weekly calls. We're very grateful for the time that you give to us on a week-over-week basis, especially during this time. This week has been interesting for Skid Row Housing Trust and everybody else because we're starting to open up a lot of the economy, and people are starting to transition back into work and just whatever their new daily life is going to be. And we here at Skid Row Housing Trust, particularly our frontline employees, are balancing, making sure that they support all of those efforts for our residents while still maintaining, a safe and secure environment for everyone since COVID-19 is still prevalent. So thank you very much again for the time. We're very honored this week, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Just want to go over a couple of items with you. You can't see the PowerPoint right now, but you'll be able to catch up on the PowerPoint at a later date if you want to click on it when this is over, because we distribute that. We typically follow the format and just give you a very quick update on the weekly occurrences. And this week, we want to identify the continuing need of supplies and resources. We continue distributing PPE equipment, both to our residents and our employees, to make sure that we're responding to their needs and some of the requests that they had. So we want to we'll be making sure that we point out a lot of our partners that have stepped up and really supported us lately. But this week, we would like to say thank you to United Way, Humanity Heroes, and California Patient Alliance. Next week is going to be the conclusion of our weekly meetings, and then we'll be going to monthly meetings to make sure that we stay in accordance and adherence to some of the things that are happening around COVID-19 as well. So the slide on the picture that you see is us distributing the PPE and hygiene kits. A lot of the information that you heard before, particularly in our meeting last week, we had a lot of our partners on the call in our panel so that you could see their commitment to our community, our cause, our mission, and our residents. So it's going really well. There's a lot of collaboration and partnership within the community. And again, thank you to all the partnerships. We're going to highlight them again next week. The next slide is something that we've been talking to on a regular basis. Skid Row Housing Trust is pursuing an access center, and although you can see the bullets, on the screen at this point in time, I'm just going to go over them one more time. We're making sure that we are communicating some of our goals that we're trying to achieve on these weekly meetings that we have. So we are hoping to have an access center right here at 1317 East 7th Street, which is where our headquarters is at. It will increase access to homeless services to the community and more resources right here at 7th and Central. It strives to problem solve, support housing navigation, and also facilitate peer support, which is really, really important. It will immediately help with crisis, shelter, and direct referrals for care. And there won't be any unnecessary barriers like sobriety, disability, health, and mental health needs. So I want to make sure that we continuously communicate that this week and next week, because we're very excited about that initiative, and we are gathering community, local, and a little further out support for those efforts as well. There's always a take action, from these calls, because we advocate on behalf of those that really maybe don't have an opportunity to advocate for themselves, to continuously support the trust. Please continue to make the gifts that you have been giving. We've been receiving funding, supplies, food, shoes, hygiene kits from so many of our partners, existing and new, and we're really looking forward to those ongoing partnerships, in the next 2 to 6 weeks. Continue to advocate for the policies in which we stand for. Reach out to our public service members, to do so. Amazon wish list, very easy. We've talked about this multiple times before. Makes it easy for you to support Skid Row Housing Trust. And then also join our mailing list if you're already on it. Please share it with your families and your family and friends. So before I introduce our guests this week, one of the things that we wanted to point out is we have been highlighting new partnerships that have come into play for us. And if we can just forward the slide to the next image, it would kind of help set the context. So a lot of people extend gratitude, reverence, support, homage to our firefighters because of what they do in an ongoing basis. But one of the things that we wanted to do, particularly this week, because it was a rough week for the Los Angeles Fire Department, particularly Station 9, we wanted to make sure that we called attention to them, extended our gratitude to them, make sure that they know that we appreciate what they do, because the Station 9 center and the firefighters are often the ones that respond to our calls. And we want to make sure that we communicate on behalf of them, that we, again, extend homage to them. And that's why we are really, really excited about our next speaker. So next up, I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Phillip Fleagle, Central Bureau Commander for the Los Angeles Fire Department, whose vast span of control involves overseeing Skid Row Station 9. It is the busiest fire station in the United States. It handles over 27,000 calls every year, and Skid Row 9 is deeply ingrained in our infrastructure here at Skid Row Housing Trust. Their team answers our calls all day, every day, and in the front of our buildings. They are the primary first responders to our residents, our team members, of employees, and our unhoused neighbors, and we are beyond grateful for their courage and heroism. So with a special level of respect and a special level of thank you to you, I would like to bring on Deputy Chief Phillip Fligiel, and he will be coming on in just short order so you can see him as well.
Okay, I think I'm on. You guys all see me and hear me?
We can see you and we can hear you.
All right, great. Well, good evening and thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Yeah, just wanted to say thank you very much, and just kind of give you an update on the incident that we had a couple days ago on Saturday evening. And I guess first and foremost on the thoughts of all of our heads was our 11 firefighters that actually got sent to the hospital that evening. Right now, currently, the majority of them have been released from the hospital. We only have 4 or 5 of them that are still admitted in the hospital right now. We have one firefighter, LA County USC Hospital right now with some pretty severe injuries, and he's holed up over there right now. And the other 4 are currently at West Hills Grossman Burn Center where they're being cared for further injuries. It was quite a unique event on Saturday. Approximately 6:26 in the evening, Los Angeles firefighters and paramedics were called to 327 East Boyd Street in downtown area, obviously. When they arrived, within 4 minutes, they found a one-story commercial building mid-block with smoke showing. We do what we normally do for any fire of this magnitude is we begin doing an offensive mode of attack where we open the building up. We get firefighters with heavy hand lines on the inside of the building to extinguish the fire while simultaneously going to the roof area and cutting ventilation holes to vent the fire and the hot gases so we can get on the inside of that structure and put the fire out and save the contents that are in there. As we pursued very early into the fire, roughly once the companies got on scene, a tremendous roaring sound was heard, kind of like a jet engine, and something that really sparked the attention of the firefighters on scene. And usually firefighters have their own methodical way, or fires have their own methodical way of going out and progressing, and this was something very odd. The firefighters recognized that and decided to go ahead and exit the building and exit the roof area and go to a defensive posture. In the midst of doing that, there was some type of explosion and torching effect that emitted from the front of the structure and created a blowtorch type of effect with severe amounts of fire. Unfortunately, that fire came through the front of the building where the aerial ladder was, where the firefighters were exiting the roof simultaneously. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the video. It's very telling that it's a very out of control moment with that fire and the members being encapsulated in fire for several seconds at a time. Our turnout gear is meant to withstand a certain amount of heat and not direct flame impingement for that long of periods. So obviously it's a big concern. The members were able to escape down the ladder. What we have is called a Mayday emergency traffic, where there's a firefighter down, missing, or trapped, and that's something we never want to hear on the radio. And call it the usual type of thing might be, not that this is a usual event, that's usually one firefighter or two. By the time the smoke cleared and everything happened, we had 11 firefighters that were down on the ground in front of the building, and the fire was still raging. So for any incident commander or any person to get their hands and arms around that becomes a very difficult situation. Fortunately, we do this quite a bit. Our training kicked in. We were able to get our members off the ground into ambulances and transported to LA County USC Hospital in rapid succession. And again, 11 firefighters there in one moment, and just kind of a tribute to LA County and the hospital system we have here in LA. They handled 11 critical quote unquote firefighters in one task very, very quickly. And that's just a comfort to us to know that we can depend on them, and the community can depend on them as we do for our basic medical stuff. So anyways, got the firefighters to the hospital. They got the care they needed. And the firefighter obviously ultimately went out. And right now we're in the investigation mode of trying to determine what happened there in a joint investigation with the federal government, with alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and try to find out exactly what happened, what caused this, so we can not allow this to happen again, and make sure that we can protect the public and also our firefighters. So that's kind of where we're at right now with that.
Well, again, thank you for everything you do. I know you've had to share that information and that story, often this week, and it's sad to hear, and it's also good to hear that they're recovering. So we appreciate that. There's a couple of other questions, if that's okay, for a couple more minutes that others have. And just for those of you that are on the call, there's some of you that have your video image up, and which is fine, but we are recording this. So if you don't want to be recorded, then you might want to just click your video off. So, Deputy Chief, the first question is, Skid Row 9 is thought of as the best of the best in the industry of heroes. So how many firefighters work at Station 9, and what are the unique challenges that you believe they face?
Yeah, that's a good question. Fire Station 9 is a very unique fire station. It's probably at the smallest first-in district in the city. And what that means is every fire station has a certain square blocks or miles within their district. And in certain parts of the city, like the Valley, it could be anywhere from 8 to 10 mile square blocks that they can take care of. Fire Station 9 only is 1.2 square miles, the smallest first-in district in the city that runs the most calls in the city, in the nation. So that's kind of one thing. And also that fire station is it doesn't look that big. The station is built in the 60s, so it's outgrown the people that are in there. It was built for a size of having 12 firefighters on duty there a day. It's swelled to 21 firefighter and paramedics there that are there every day, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. So it's basically doubled in its capacity of firefighters and paramedics to take care of the members and the people in the community of Skid Row and the LA area. And as you mentioned, I think at the top of this, it was, I think the initial factoid there was 27,000 calls a year. In 2018, it was 35,000 calls a year. Wow. So things have changed. Obviously, Skid Row has swelled as well. But the LAFD has risen more to the challenge there. We have different resources that are assigned there, assisting with the medical calls there, not to mention anything else that happens down there, but predominantly 80% of their calls are emergency medical calls for the people that is their first line of care is us, the LAFD. And again, a lot of people have a lot of sickness and illnesses that need to be taken care of, and sometimes medications aren't available and they fall on bad times, and we're here to serve them and do our job and take care of them and get them hopefully where they need to be. So those are some of the challenges there. There's a lot more I could discuss about it, but you must know the people that are there at Nines aren't put there because that's the only place they can go, or that they've got, they're on some type of disciplinary thing or something. People at Fire Station 9, the firefighters and paramedics, they want to be there. It's just truly amazing to me to see that they're running their wheels off every day, running possibly 80 to 90 calls a shift out of that fire station. And they want to be there to help the community, and they're really embedded in the help of the community, and that's really a testament to the people that work there. It's kind of just a funny fact real quick, if I can just keep talking for one more minute, is the apparatus doors at that fire station open and close so many times now. There's like pieces of metal that are ingrained into the cement of the fire station that have been there since 1960. They're nubbed down to the back to the cement again. They've been open and closed so many times. So it's kind of an interesting fact about how many times those doors open and close every day. It's just beyond a recognition. So that's just some information about nines.
Two more quick questions.
Sure.
One of the purpose of these meetings that we have here, within our community, is to help understand Skid Row, the community, and specifically right now, the impacts of COVID-19. With COVID-19, how have things changed at the fire station with each firefighter's role? Like, can you give us a little bit of context? And just before you answer that, I'm just reminding everyone that's on the screen. For those of you that are participating on our call, we can see you if your video is on. So if you're okay with being video recorded, that's just an FYI to let you know. If you don't want to be video recorded, you might want to take your video camera off. So I'm sorry, Deputy Chief, just real quick, with COVID-19, just to repeat it again, how have things changed at the fire station with the firefighter's role?
Yeah, our roles haven't changed. It just got more into a more of a cautious mode of the people that we're seeing, that we had to protect ourselves even more than we had to before. And as we all knew in the very beginning, it was very tough that every hour, every day, there were new information about what was happening and how this pandemic was progressing. But the big thing is again, with our organization, and I'm really proud of the people that I work with, and our fire chief and the mayor, the city of Los Angeles, as they rose to the occasion. We worked nonstop for those first couple of weeks, and we pulled some hard, I'm talking administrative wise, and trying to put plans together to make sure our people were protected so we could take care of the people that needed us. And that just basically came down to making sure we had the proper PPE, we were able to protect ourselves, and also give the patients the proper PPE so they could protect themselves, and just a little bit more of being aware of what the environment was at that time. Protocol-wise, nothing changed. We still had to do our job. It's just a different way of doing it. And I think now it's, I hate to say it, but that's the new reality for right now, is we just got to make extra sure that we're safe, the patients are taken care of, and that we just approach it just a little bit more cautiously. But again, our protocols are still the same. We're still going out there doing what we have to do.
Okay, awesome. And then last question, I'm sure you get this, and a lot of our community wants to know this too, is what can we do, what can you share with us, that would allow, what can we do to help? What can this community or this audience do to show an expression of respect, to provide help? What are some ideas, if anything, that you could share with us?
Again, I think it just gets back down to caring for each other. And I was around in the '94 earthquake. I've lived in California my whole life, and in Los Angeles actually. And it's after these big events that everybody comes together. We're all together. We want to take care of each other. I think we need to carry that through even more after this is kind of over, subsides. And I think looking after one another, and if we call 911 or somebody calls for 911 on Skid Row, to direct the guys in to say, hey, the guy is over here, or the person that needs help is over here, or maybe more information of the person that we can help do our job a little bit better when we get on scene there. And I think just the caring part about, maybe having a little bit more respect for each other, I think might help us out too in the long run too. But we're going to continue to do our job, and I think whatever you can give us is, as far as information on incidents is fine, but we don't need any more support other than just the smiles and the waves, and making sure that we do our job well for you guys. Wherever we can do, we'll be there for you.
Well, we know that this was a very tough time in general with COVID-19 and all the pressures that you face. We know that we have a very busy community. We know that this week particularly, was hard on Station 9. So on behalf of Skid Row Housing Trust, all the residents here, the employees here, the leadership here, and the board of directors here, we want to say thank you for everything that you've done. We will continue to communicate on your behalf. We'll make sure we gather as many smiles and waves that we can and share it with the station. But thank you for your time. We know you're really busy. Thank you for everything that you do, and it to Station 9 until we can get there and do so ourselves. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And again, thank you for having me tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And then with that, we are going to bring up our resident guest this evening. I'd like to introduce Julian Steptoe. He's a resident of our property called Crescent and has been with us for about 6 months. So we have been hearing, from different residents that have come from, different backgrounds, different stories, different perspectives, and we have really enjoyed sharing them with all of this, community here. So he is going to be on our screen in just a couple of moments, and he's going to tell us, his story. So if you could just patiently wait for 30 seconds, because we just have to make sure that we do the technical switch. And Julian, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and click your video and your audio, and we'll get started. It'll be just a couple moments. He's alerting us that he is getting through the lines right now. So he will be here in just a couple minutes. Hi, Julian. Yes, the audience cannot hear you yet. So if you could just click on your microphone and your phone, the audio and the video buttons would be great. There's a little bit of a screen freeze going on, audience, so thank you for your patience. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties for Julian, so we are going to keep working through some of that until he gets on. There were a couple of questions that some of our audience provided for us, so we're just going to go to the Q&A section and give me 30 seconds for that, and we'll go through the Q&A session until Julian gets on. And Julian is raising his hand. So the first question that is coming up is, how has COVID-19 specific? Oh, okay, here he is. Welcome, Julian. Nice to see you again. All right. Well, we are very excited to hear your story. So I'm going to get off the screen just for a couple of moments, and the audience is all yours.
Oh, well, okay, thank you. Hello, fellow companions in this lockdown. Well, I just wanted to comment that Commander Fleagle, I wanted to compliment his troops. I saw them in action a couple of days ago where someone took ill who lived in a tent in front of my building. I'm at the Crescent over at 5th Street near town. And they have responded from the fire department on numerous occasions when we were having an issue with the false alarms, a lot of it due to misuse of a microwave, so I heard. And well, I was given this residence by Skid Row Housing Trust after they were contacted on my behalf by the people concerned. And let's see, a fellow there named Tim Bird basically walked me through and hooked me up and did all the legwork that got me off of the street where I had been basically stranded for the previous 2 years, having run out of money. I've been living in a desperate situation of homelessness really for like 30 years, and didn't think of myself as homeless or in any desperate situation. I was able to keep myself afloat, and until I got injured in a bus accident where my spine suffered several compression fractures, which don't heal. And so I've been disabled, trying to adjust to living daily life with this condition, which throws all of my physiological systems out of balance and in conflict with each other, causing pain and so forth. Anyway, so I had been doing volunteer work to educate youth about nutrition and heritage. And before that, I spent my career as a restaurant worker with plans to open my own restaurant. And also to support an artistic career where I'm working on literary works and other communicative items. I have founded a program called Tragedy's End that's registered with LA County as a nonprofit. And basically what I do is try to develop and distribute and promote theories that help in tragedy in our society and in people's lives. Well, it's a very underfunded type of thing and unpublicized type of thing, but I'm improving my approach, and it may become viable at some point. And I would think in these times, a lot of people would be interested and devoted to ending tragedy in their own life and in the lives of those around them. So maybe my time has come, and maybe Skid Row Housing Trust has given me a chance to dive into it and bring it to fruition. So, well, I don't know if there's any questions or anything.
There's two questions that were happening, and one of them you kind of answered, and then we'll just have two questions, and then we'll be turning it over to Jet. So the first one is, how much has your life changed in the last 6 months now that you're housed?
Well, the main thing is that living on the street was very difficult managing my condition. And so I pretty much tied myself up at knots and couldn't do very much. So this has given me a chance to recuperate some of my facilities that's the main, most important change. And of course, the idea that I have people around me who are concerned and assisting me is also a boon to my spirit.
And then the second question is, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, so thank you for doing so, is what is your thoughts around the firefighters that help the community that you live in?
Well, I admire their continued dedication and discipline in the face of so many challenges. And I think that's one reason they feel a connection with the people on Skid Row, because though we're not celebrated or appointed to our positions, we face as many challenges.
And then the last question is, what are some ideas that you have to show the vibrancy of the Skid Row community, to show the positive side of the Skid Row community? What would you like people to know?
Look for the positivity in people. I mean, most of the people out here are not done by choice. Our society is very complicated in many ways, and a lot of people get caught up in those complications and lose their way and end up here. So all these are your neighbors who've lost their homes, and just the people with homes. And that's how, that's how we have to see it. We have to see weak spots and shore them up and give them strength. Otherwise, we function on a weaker level as a society, just as we would bodily. On a personal level, if you have a weakness in your heart or you diabetes or something, you have to tend to that, or it brings you down. And the same thing in our society. If we have people on the street without standard housing or support or respect from their neighbors and fellow citizens and visitors to the country, we're having a problem that's weakening our nation. And we can very much say, I think, from many logical perspectives, that we are in this crisis of COVID-19 because we have been in a weakened state by not paying attention to the things that are important.
Well, Julian, thank you. Thank you very, very much, for your time, for your communication, for sharing your story. We very much appreciate it. And at this point in time, I'm going to be turning it over to Jet, who is going to lead a question and answer session. So there's a couple of questions. So you're going to hear Jet's voice now. So Jet, if you want to chime in and lead the Q&A session, I will go ahead and drop out of the video feed.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Should I drop out too?
No, you don't have to. I think people very much enjoy seeing and hearing you.
All right.
Julian, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And the first question is actually for Deputy Chief Phillip Fleagle. How do you feel about the work that your firefighters do day in and day out in Station 9 after hearing Julian talk about his experience?
That makes me feel good because we know we're doing good for the people out there. There is a need, and that's what we're there for. And again, I think a lot of the guys are driven by that, by knowing they are making a difference And that's quite honestly any, police officers, firefighters, we care about making a difference in people's lives. There's just a lot more of it downtown in the LA area. But I think that's kind of what we thrive off of is we have a craft, we have skills, our paramedics are very talented, and we have something to give back. And it's nice to see Julian getting back on his feet, and that's what we're there for. So I'm glad we could be of service.
Thank you so much for that. We're all really excited to have you on our call. The other question, and I know this is probably a difficult one because you're not dealing with data that's been analyzed over 6 months, but we have somebody asking, what is the status of addiction and overdoses since the pandemic?
Okay. Is that for me? I heard an echo there.
Yeah, I think that might have been.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my audio, but it's for you, Deputy Chief.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I really don't have statistics like that we share or have available to me right now. And again, I really can't. Sometimes it's really hard to put your thumb on what's happening with an individual. And a lot of times, like I said in the beginning, is people may have diabetic problems, and sometimes that may look like an overdose of some reason because the person is comatose or altered level of consciousness. And it's really not a drug problem at all. It's actually a low sugar problem that they need to have sugar, need to have some treatment. So a lot of times we see things like that, and the lay person might think that's what the problem is. But a lot of medical emergencies we see downtown in the Skid Row area aren't really overdoses, although there are quite a bit of them. There are other things that kind of are outliers that people need care for. And again, they're not able to get their prescriptions sometimes, and that's what might make them feel ill sometimes. So again, to kind of answer the question, I don't have specifics on that, but hopefully it kind of gave a roundabout answer about some things that are happening and things that maybe could cause somebody to maybe look like they might be overdosing.
Thank you so much for that. We don't have other questions. I do have an audio problem. We hope to see everybody next week. And Julian and Deputy Chief Fleagle, we are so grateful for you.
You're welcome. Thanks again for having me on.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All
We are
right.